Okay.
Yeah. So today, as I said, we'll discuss the information technology and information technology enabled services. IT, we all know pretty well what it is. IT includes hardware, software. Hardware is the infrastructure on which the softwares run, and IT services. And I have sort of expanded a little bit on the technology area itself. Some of them may not be, suppose we are talking of uh, artificial intelligence. A lot of people will say that it is not information technology, it is computer science. But for the flexibility of today's discussion, I have made the definition a little more broad, and I have also included the domestic IT and the global IT in our consideration. Now, if you look at things which we just talked about, there is this hardware which is sold in India mostly by foreign countries like IBM, HP printers, IBM, mainframe machines, or you have many others. Softwares which is likes of Adobe or Microsoft. There is a third category which is neither hardware nor software, but software, over the top providers, OTT, like Facebook or LinkedIn, who are actually operating on the top of the hardware and software infrastructure which you have. Now, this market is completely domestic. So people from outside are coming to India and selling. And if you look at the services part uh, of the business, for which you have these famous names of Wipro, Infosys, TCS, and the global corporations from India, it has two parts. There is a domestic part of services which is provided to the local players, local customers, and an international part of services which is obviously provided to the international players. And ITS, which in many other terms is called business process outsourcing or BPO, business process restructuring or BPR, which is again having two markets. Domestic market, when you make a call to ICICI Bank, for example, somebody responds on the call center, that is a BPO. Or India, specifically because of our, fluency in English and increasingly better understanding of various processes, we have also become a hub of IT-enabled services. However, in recent past, that is getting challenged by countries like Philippines. Manila has become a much bigger center than India. That is what I understand, because they can also speak good English and they have also picked up, understanding of the processes. And this IT-enabled services has two parts. One is the voice part, where people take calls and respond, which is the example of banking support which I talked about. And there is a process oriented ITS is there. Say for example, today we might be filing our tax online with the help of a service provider like ClearTax. Now here it is, there is a part of voice also. I call up, I talk to agent, or you are taking a insurance from somebody and you call up Policy Bazaar and you discuss with them. But there is a large part of it is also the process of filling up the form, giving the detail, finding the code, making a decision. So ITS has two parts, as I said. There is a voice part, which has now India, has lost a large part of its competitive advantage, and the non-voice part, where India continues to be a strong competition, and it has both a domestic market and international market. Information technology has two broad parts. One is the hardware, software, and OTT companies, over-the-top companies. Other is pure services, for which we are known globally. It has a export market which is huge, but there is a large domestic market also. So we'll look at all of this in the context of COVID and the impact. This is summary of what you have covered so far. We education, retail, and e-commerce, manufacturing, agriculture. These are the segments which you covered, and we propose to cover around 10 segments so that we get a good sense of what is happening across the economy. This is a snapshot of the ITS market, services market. Large part of it is exports. The amount which we earn in dollars through the exports of IT, ITES is more or less similar, more or less same as the dollar amount which is spent to import oil. So there is many a times there is this saying that the IT, ITES is actually paying for our dollar bills, right? But there is a large domestic market also. We all, including this laptop, this is a hardware, there is a software which has gone into it, Windows and many other softwares which you buy. And there is obviously a large maintenance, infrastructure to maintain all the hardware infrastructure and software infrastructure that is there in the country. There is approximately 4 to 5 million people are engaged in this business, IT, the technology business. And majority of the jobs are premium jobs. People, this is a service sector. Many times people are having pretty good salary. They have an opportunity to travel abroad. Of course, going forward, it may not be there, at least in near term. They make, they are globally exposed. They meet customers many times who are global. They do benchmarking of their process system, methodologies, everything which is global in nature. And in a large extent, this sector is the one who have absorbed probably the engineering graduates in the country over the last 2 decades. They have been probably the largest employer of the engineering graduates, because of the reason that apart from technology, you also need to have some basic degree for people to get the visa to travel abroad for work, right? So engineering is the minimum degree which is good to get a visa approval. This is also industry which has given a lot of opportunity to the women, because if you go back and look at the industry to 30 years back, which was largely manufacturing, it was always a difficult proposition for the women, multiple shifts, and then transportation, kid at home, managing the home, environment was very, very at times very, very rough. If you look at a manufacturing shop floor, it's not very easy to be there. But service industry, and specifically with the coming of IT industry, IT and ITES industry, women got a job where they can work from home if necessary. They have the flexibility. They are working in a very, very, comfortable environment. The organization is also very, very sensitive to their requirements, because, the biggest talent is human resource. So the HR is always constantly looking at policies which will make life more easy for the women. Most organizations, at least the large organizations, give their own transport. Many of them give, creche support, special support to children to get engaged and stuff like that. So this is a pioneering industry in this country in bringing women in the workforce. And if you look at the entry level, may not be there at the leadership level, because a lot of women have to leave once they start a family, and they don't come back, because still primarily the responsibility of setting up and running the home is with the women. The entry level, it is almost 40 to 45% of the joiners in this industry is women. In fact, that is much higher than the 30 to 33% women who go to the engineering colleges. Percentage of women in engineering colleges is lower than what is taken in these IT companies, right? This has made our image much better globally, as you know. We always talk about it. And it's a very advanced industry, because most of the export market we are doing in developed countries. And large companies, or some of the, if you look at the largest companies, their market is primarily in the Western world, the OECD countries, Organization of Economically, I'm forgetting the essentially the developed countries. So you have to, first of all, you have to understand their language, understand their business process, understand their culture, take all sorts of precautions in terms of data security, in terms of managing people, their compensation, everything. So this industry also has largely helped in setting up a global benchmarking, setting up global benchmarks in Indian industry as a whole, right? So this snapshot I wanted to give, that this industry is very, very important for us, because it is not just yet another industry which is getting a lot of employing a lot of people, which you can't deny, but it gets a significant amount of our foreign exchange. It gives us a global prestige, and it also helps us in accepting and refining a lot of global best practices. In fact, because of one revolution that has happened in India in the quality perspective, which has, subsequently was taken over, subsequently was adopted by companies who are in pharmaceutical sector or in manufacturing sector, especially the ones who are in export oriented business. Pharma is one of them. A lot of this quality control fundamentals and the best practices has been adopted from the IT and ITS industry, right? So it is very, very important industry for us. If you look at where we are there, in the given COVID circumstances, we know the COVID is a disruptor. It is, very similar to BFSI, which we discussed yesterday. Again, this is the industry which is a service provider to other industries, and all the other industries are struggling. So obviously there is a direct as well as indirect impact on this industry for the COVID perspective. But the good part of this industry is it has, unlike many of the other sections which we saw, right? This industry has some, fundamental advantages. The first part is that this is a very digital business, right? So a lot of it can be done without people being present. So if you look at even a software development project, which a company will be doing, whether it will be IBM doing software development for global market sitting in India, or Infosys will be doing, 70% of the work will be done offshore, means away from the customer. So anyway, it will be done remotely. So whether they sit in office or they sit at home, if the work can be of same quality without any threat of data loss or people running away with whatever software developed, it doesn't really matter, and today's context doesn't really matter at all for the customer whether the software is being developed at somebody's home or some software is being developed in an office, because both of them are anyway 10,000 kilometers away, right? So it is an extremely digitized business. Software, if I go back to the overall thing which I talked about, large part of the business of the IT services which is exported is anyway being done sitting at a remote location. Is similarly, the large part of the IT services business that happens within the country is also done remotely, the same model. The softwares that are being developed, they are, or the softwares which are bought off the shelf, it is called, it is like, Windows, you are buying, say, Office 2020 or whatever is the latest, or Windows 2015, Office, I think Office 2020. Now you don't have anybody coming to your home anymore to install it, right? You just buy it, or you just give a license number, it gets downloaded, it gets installed automatically on its own, right? So a lot of this, almost all the softwares can be managed remotely. A lot of this infrastructure which is managed by people, the infrastructure management can be done remotely. Today, if you look at even in our university, many times you will have challenge, you will call IT guy, the IT guy will say, share your screen, right? And you will do whatever has to be done. Right. So the first advantage, it is by nature, it is, the remote work is already part of this particular business. Second thing is that there is a common language in this industry across the board, that is English. So there is, unlike in manufacturing, where, you probably have a manager who is coming from, say, there is a factory in Bangalore and the manager has come from Punjab, and he doesn't know the local language, Kannada language, and you will not be able to communicate. So you have to be face to face, and there you can probably demonstrate the work by physically showing the facility or some diagram. Here the language which everybody is speaking across the world, almost across the world, including China and Japan, or France and Germany, is English, right? So the common denominator of the language is not an issue. Third is your customers are very developed customers. They are already accustomed to people operating from a large, from a far away place, and they are also very sophisticated, right? So they don't want to harp on the issue that you have to come physically, I want to see you and stuff like that, which may be a case with a lot of Indian companies, right? You still want to see people physically in front of us, right? And this at this point of time, of course, we know that the customer business is also at a halt, and they know that disruption is real, and they are ready to accept your disruption. So if you look at IT companies, wherever their work is going on, they could move. I was just reading today that 93% of the people in India for this IT services companies, and 98% globally outside India, they are operating from home, and customer has no issue. And the last point which I forgot to mention is that everybody is equipped. They have a laptop or a desktop, they know how to remotely log in, they know how to talk on phone, they know how to come on a Zoom call and maintain the decorum, how to take tasks, how to give tasks, which is probably a learning curve for many other industries, and in some industries it is not possible at all. However, there are certain challenges which I wanted to say, that this industry is very, very people heavy. Globally there are 6 million, 60 lakhs Indians are in this business, working in this sector. And if you look at in India itself, there are around 40 plus lakhs of people. Even in the swanky offices of Infosys or Wipro and all, we talk about 100 square feet per person when we build. That includes the common area of cafeteria and lobby and all. So below a certain level of seniority, people sit very closely. And the biggest place where people come together in a big way is the gate when they come in or go out, because thousands of people have to go out, and there is hardly any, you cannot just say, you have to have 3 feet distance, then it will take 5 hours or 10 hours for people to go out. And the canteen, right, where people have to come in a window of 1.5 hours and eat their food, right? So it is a lot of people, and that is where I was, I wanted to bring this difference between manufacturing and this, that manufacturing is also very people dependent. But if you go to a shop floor, even if you go to a very old factory like Steel Authority India Limited, you will find that there is a, the shop floor of, 10,000 square feet, there are only 5 people. But in IT industry, 10,000 square feet, you'll have, 150 people sitting there, right? So it is very people driven, and social distancing will be a challenge, but it is being offset by the fact that people can work from home. And already people like, TCS has said that we will be working, 75% will be working from home, only 25% will come to office. Everybody is going to restart with 25% people, the big players, and slowly they may go to 50% or 75%. But if you look at BPO, business process outsourcing, even in the large BPO companies, Genpact, for example, the space is an issue, because, as I said, that as you grow senior, you get bigger and bigger space, because you are a manager, you will have a cabin, or, senior manager, cubicle, and then cabin and stuff like that. But BPO is a very, very flat structure where there is a manager, and below that there will be 200 people, and they do sit in a lobby, and they sit very close to each other. And the same issue with companies which are much smaller, especially in places like Bangalore, where space is very expensive, or Chennai, or Hyderabad, right? So the people are very close together. Now, if they can make it work from home, large companies can do it. Whether the smaller entities can do it, I really don't know. We have to see, right? And that they are a significant portion of this export, which I have been talking about. Almost all companies provide transport, and that is a similar problem for us also at this point of time, for from Adama's perspective or our school's perspective, that now that you are giving your transport, you have to also ensure that transport is also social distancing is maintained. People don't feel threatened while they are incoming. Of course, the advantage is that people who are coming by public transport, you don't even know what they're doing. But moment you are giving some crash, for example, you have to ensure the kids don't come together. Today you have 50 kids in maybe 5,000 square feet, but tomorrow you may not have, you may have 50 kids, but you have to have 20 people to make sure that they don't come each other and start playing, right? So I don't know. I mean, these are the questions which we'll have to see. More facilities means more responsibility. Travel restrictions. At any point of time, IT industry has almost 30-35% people outside India. So that is already there. They will not be able to travel back very soon. Neither you will be able to send people. And the people which you typically send are the people who have very high quality talent. You want to send them for a few days so that they can go and meet the customer, understand some requirement, or resolve some problem and come back. Now, these restrictions will heavily affect the IT industry, especially the export part of it, because the international travel will be a big challenge for maybe years. Developed countries may block travel in a big way for years, maybe. And since 80% of the job in a place like US is under threat because of COVID, as people will start losing jobs, you already know that millions of people in US and other developed countries are, filing for benefits, right? We will be seeing a lot of pressure against outsourcing, because people will start saying we don't have job, and then the likes of these guys are coming and making money here, you have to stop it, right? And election year, Trump and all complications will happen. The last part is data security. Data security has been a very, very big issue. There are security like bank data. You cannot take Bank of America data and remotely log in from India and work on it. But right now, because there is very less opportunity to do anything else, people might have given some sort of permissions. Even the regulatory authorities probably has given permissions to go a little slow on this. But as things start stabilizing, this security of data will come back, and this work from home will be then again become a little bit of challenge, because it will take couple of big data thefts and issues like that for people to wake up again and start saying that data security is very important. And at the same time, one more thing we have to also think, that when the people are working in an organization, you are having a physical control on that individual. But when the person is operating from home, you have no clue whatsoever what the person is doing. That person might just fall down, fall sick, injure himself, or in worst case, just keep the login on and go out, commit a crime or whatever happens. Now, what is the liability of the company when somebody is working from home? You have to build those, those sort of documentation, right? So this is something, which companies like IBM, which traditionally 40% people are working from home, or Yahoo, or, Facebook and all, or in US context, even the Infosys Wipro has developed. But when you want to do it in Indian context, we have to ensure that, these checks and balances are there. We have clearly, companies should not get caught in some sort of legal issue because the employees did not behave themselves properly. And also the last thing is, we have to ensure that every employee is having the adequate technological infrastructure to work remotely. So you cannot punish an employee by saying that don't come to office, and then they are not having a laptop or their connectivity is very poor, and say because you are not coming to office and not able to work from home, you have to go home, right? So that will be additional cost which will happen. I mean, I had been reading that people have been shipped infrastructure like desktops to home so that they can work from home. I think this probably is a worst statement, because how do you suddenly get thousands of desktops and shipped to homes, and courier services also stop. But going forward, if you say that you have to stay home, 75% have to stay home, then you have to make sure that the connectivity at the home, they have the right amount of infrastructure, desktop or laptop, and they will work and all of that, right? Because that should not be a ground for them to lose their job tomorrow. And the big area where the touch is very, very important. Today my laptop is, for example, is not working. So tomorrow I have to go to somebody, some shop here in Bangalore, and this is infrastructure management. Though a lot of it is remotely done, a lot of it is still very physical. And you have this IT people coming, visiting, coming to your desk, coming to your home. We are going to IT shops and stuff like that. And this is not restricted only to laptop and desktop. I'm talking of any sort of digital devices like phones. We have to go to phone shops, upgrade, cover, not working, repair. Now, this is a big area of touch, and a new rule book has to be there. People are talking of. I was recently reading that they will have in Airtel, you will have to if you have to go to Airtel shop now, you have to take an online appointment, and then you have to go at that particular time. But then if the person doesn't land up, will you blacklist them, or they land up little later and you say I will not allow, and then create a ruckus? So this is the area which like many other industries we talked about will be challenged. What to expect? I think more and more people will be working from home. Disruption will be there in near term. While the IT companies have been managing to run the projects they have been doing, but end customers is challenged, and slowly some of these contracts and all that, the renewal will stop, their spend will stop. So after some time, it may not be immediate, or when the payments are due. For example, for current work, we will start seeing some sort of challenge. Digitization of the customers will be very, very important. So here, what I mean to say is that, a lot of these customers today are having, why 33% of the people are sitting outside the country? Because while it is technology, you still want people physically to be present in your premises to get things done, right? Now, if you want them not to come to your premises, you have to ensure that the remote login is possible on your infrastructure, and you have to trust that system. So that will be additional cost for those customers, and the customers' employees have to be trained to work in that environment, right? So those are the things has to happen for this so-called working from home and remote working thing to succeed. Recruitments have already been frozen. It has been told salary hikes, promotions will not be there. There will be cuts at the senior levels. And in near term, there will be no job loss. I think that is a combination of both, not to create panic and also to ensure that people are not, people are truthful. Because if we start asking people to come, get rid of people on various grounds, people will start telling lies. So they will not do, they will not tell they are sick. They will end up in office while having a fever. They will start, be unproductive at home because they will start looking for a job. Or some may even commit some crime of, stealing some code or making some funny emails to the customer so that you are damaged. So I think for now the job loss will not be there, but salary and all that will be under pressure. What will be happening? The companies have stopped giving guidance, because while everybody is saying nothing will happen and there is no issue and stuff like that, I think one thing is for sure is that nobody has a clue how it will pan out. So no guidance of how many people will be, what is the sort of revenue and all that. It has been stopped. Jobs will be protected, as I talked about. TCS says 75% will be working from home. So many others will follow. In medium term, of course, the cost cutting will happen because clients will be having budget problems. They will have to invest additional money for their own infrastructure, and then they will start pushing the service providers. And service providers by that time will know that a lot of people can actually work from home, and a lot of people are redundant. Anyway, they were coming to office and having tea, coffee, and going home. So after some time, I'm sure at least 25-30% people will ask to go home. And middle management will be the first one to go, because middle management typically are the guys who connect the top management with bottom, the junior management. But as the collaboration becomes much more sophisticated, the value of middle management will be reduced. And that is a thing, I think, across the board. People like us who are on the middle management and all, we should think, how we can become much more valuable, not necessarily from a university perspective, but I think it will be a global part. Because if technology can bring customer and the survey, the provider of service very close without much of interference from the intermediaries, then intermediaries will be vulnerable, right? And typically they earn much more salary and stuff like that. This will happen. Opportunities, of course, is huge. Everywhere you want to do anything, if you want to remove human touch, you will have to replace it with technology. So everywhere, and here I am talking of technology in a broader term, not just services. You will have education. We have already seen it. Healthcare, we are seeing so many people are taking telemedicine, support right now, and will continue. You have remote patient monitoring will be happening. I'm sure, things like today, if today my parents would have been, I have a CCTV camera in my Calcutta home, but my sister is staying with them and they are quite fit. But tomorrow, if they are increasingly sick, I will probably try to invest in a remote monitoring, patient monitoring system, which can be voice activated, so that, if a situation like today happens, then I can, keep a control on them, right? And now everybody knows that it can happen, and it can happen for months. It's not a 1-2 day, right? And nothing prevents it from happening again. Personal health tracking will become very big. Everybody will like to see how fit they are, what is their oxygenation in the body, what is the vital parameters. Automation and robotics will automatically happen. We have been talking. Collaboration is a big thing, which is people are working. And I have been saying to all my team members, everybody, that please pick up. This is a tool which everybody will like to see. How do you evaluate people? How do you delegate work to people? These are the skills which will be very, very vital for years to come. Because even if COVID goes back, I don't think we'll go back to so much of physical interface as we are we have been doing, because a lot of this fear of data loss, data issue is gone. A lot of this training, how to use Zoom, how to use editing software, how to take a video, how to compress a video, everybody would have learned. Third is, you will save a lot of money in giving away space. Why to have so much space? Fourth is, you will save money in transportation. Overall the society will feel better about it. People will feel much more engaged, and you can push people to put 2 more hours, because anyway they are not traveling and they will happily do it. Today, I am doing this at 8 o'clock in the night. If I would have been in Infosys, I can tell you I would never do it, because by this time I'll be on the road. I'll still be driving, right? So today I can do it, and at 10 o'clock also people are doing, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, because you are actually much more relaxed physically. Data analytics will be big anyway, which we know. And just to talk of COVID and all this is to explore this area, to explore anyway. But as we go forward, people will have learned like to measure productivity, engagement of people, how we are delivering, what is the satisfaction, everything. Data is getting captured right now. Zoom is probably going to be another Facebook very soon, because probably 200 million people are now spending so much time on Zoom. They know, how do we speak, how good is the English, what do we say, how do we say, who is my friend, who is my family, everything is in Zoom right now, right? And so we should also build those sort of data. The data will drive a lot of this, because as you become digital, the physical interface reduce, a lot of this decision, whom to trust, who will get the job done, who has this go-getting attitude. We have to depend on data. Mobility, working from anywhere, communication, business continuity planning, again, a big thing will happen. We have already started with COVID and next, but then it will expand now. If you look at today, even in a university context, we don't have a business continuity planning, right? When we have, suddenly if there is a disturbance in the city, then we find that, 1,000 people cannot go back to Calcutta, or there is a big fight on Barasat on one side and the other place on other side, and everybody is caught inside the campus, 5,000 people. We don't have a continuity plan. We probably don't even know how to get dinner for so many people, right? But right now we are building for COVID, and it will become then commonplace. Then it will start with COVID, then it will go to social disturbance, then it will go to, if the roads are blocked, then it will go to how, if somebody critical, is missing, then it will go to, if somebody runs away with my intellectual property, what will do? So this business continuity planning is already a big thing. And here again, a lot of technology will be required, because, now the judgments will become much dependent on technology rather than meeting people, seeing people and making judgments. All of you I know physically, but if it continues for another 6 months and we recruit 2 more people and we don't even meet them, how do you judge them? I'll have to depend on some tool. Maybe I will not, but companies have to depend on tools to see whether that person is, really delivering or not. Can you trust them or not? And some of the readings. So I'll stop here. I think this is where we are. Tomorrow I'll take up this healthcare, and then a couple more, and this series will be done. So I am stopping my recording.